Alright, there are times when the Thicken tool just doesn't work with a lofted surface that's been trimmed out like this. And one of the big reasons is that when you build a loft surface and you use these mesh tolerance curves to build them, it, it ends up that they're actually too precise, okay? And they're very accurate to this cross section that's there that's built off of the scan data, so that ends up they have just way too much information on them, and so when you try to thicken this, it has problems. Okay, so that's one typical issue that you would run into. And let me see if I can demonstrate this real quick. Let me turn that sketch off. I'm going to go and edit this thicken feature here. Give it a second to kind of bring it up. There we go. So minus 1.5 size 3D printing, that's pretty reasonable thickness to give it some enough stiffness and all with something like this. But let's say you really wanted it to be like minus 5, okay, millimeters thickness. So when I try to do this, it cranks for a little while, thinks about it, and then eventually, at least when I tried earlier, came back and said that it failed. Okay, and you can see nothing seems to happen, and you'll see a little icon down here. You can click on this and tell you that the operation cannot be created or valid. Try adjusting the values or changing the input geometry. Okay, so the values refers to that, so maybe you can go for a little less thickness. Let's try that, see if it would work. And then the other one about the input geometry, I'll show you how to go in and fix that here in a second. So let's see if by chance a thinner one that's not minus 5 would work. Nope, still too much. Okay, so probably that minus 2 or somewhere there is probably the range that this works. Yep, you can see right away it went ahead and built it. And it really just all depends. If I had probably picked up a larger area of this, that I got more of the undulations that are in this, then it would probably fail. Okay, but let's go in and look at how to so that's one thing, maybe trying a different thickness, trying a different direction or something like that. Now, if you're building to something, that's not always reasonable. Okay, so what can you do if you run into that problem? Well, what we're going to do is look at going in and modifying the sketch or the reference line that we built. And I will start with this one right there. So let me make that active and right mouse click on it, say edit sketch. And there's my sketch. Now let me show you what's going on before we rebuild this. So when you select this, and then in the sketch palette here at the very top, there's something called a curvature comb. I'm going to toggle that on. What you get with this is something that is just looks like a radio wave. It's all over the place. So what that's telling me is this curve is literally switching back and forth in directions as it goes, and it goes from a really sharp curvature to more flat area, then keeps bouncing around. So this curve's just got a lot of complexity to it. Okay, way more than it really needs in essence. Well, where does it get that? Let me cancel that, get out of that. I'm going to delete this one. Okay, then I'm going to go back and recreate another mesh section. Right there, spline fit tolerance. Okay, so let me go rebuild this one just at that same setting. So this literally, and if you looked at it, so what is that? 0.0009 or 0.009. So it is fitting it very tightly. Okay, when it gets built like this. So in essence, it has to create a ton of little points along this to get it to really match that. Okay, so that's actually the default is good because it gets a very accurate curve and then a loft out of it, but it makes that loft very complex as well. Okay, so let me try a different setting with this. Now you have to set this at the beginning. So when you come in, you have to make sure that this is set correctly here at the beginning of this. So let me go ahead and do 0.1 with this and see what we get. So there's this. Now this is telling you there's a maximum curve deviation. It's less by what's that, a tenth, okay, or power 10. should say, and you start seeing a little bit of something different. Now, I'm going to do this one more time, and I'm going to really make it extreme, okay? So let's go and do this. Meaning I'm going to go to like 1 millimeter, all right? And I'm going to pick here, and then pick here. And what you'll see is visually, there's a big difference there, okay? Between the mesh and, the actual curve that's built. Now watch what happens when we go back in and select the cone plot. That's what a cone plot should probably look like. What this is telling me is that it's a little bit more curvature here, kind of stays the same curvature through here, and then it bows out a little bit. Okay, well, that's helping me to understand what's going on with the underlying curve there. The issue is, and if I zoom up, yeah, there's a big gap. This is not matching this at all. Okay, and I don't remember what it was. It was probably like 0.2 or 0.5 millimeters. So it's really not being very accurate. So let's try. It's going to pick this, delete it. I'm going to go back one more time. Okay. So what I would say is you go in and try a power of 10 factor to change it. Okay. To start with, so it was 0.01. So let's go make it 0.1. Okay. Like that. And pick from there to there. Okay. Still fairly tight is that. Now you can do 0.5, it doesn't have this, but I would try power 10 to start with. Hit OK. We're going to stop the sketch and give it a second. It's recomputing what's there. Now what happens is, because this is a new curve, it actually gets removed from the loft tool. Okay, so we're going to have to go back in and fix that. So it'd almost be worthwhile just to kind of back up to right prior to the loft, or to do this. But give it a second. It's still computing, as you can see, as it goes through and does this. Okay. Now the interesting thing is it's giving you a warning. Let's take a look at what it is saying. It says the model is using cache data. In essence, it's ignoring that, but the surface that was built is still the same. Okay, so that's the problem with it. All right, now let's go look at the loft tool here real quick and see what happened. Okay, well, when I originally created this, there was 5 profiles. Now there's only 4 because this one got dropped out. Okay, it's still the same surface because it's using the cache data, not really rebuilding it at this point. Okay, so what I'm going to do is eliminate this last one. It pulls back to there, and then simply click there and click there to rebuild this. Okay, now it may be a little bit different top to bottom. It may have not matched up what's there. That shouldn't be too big of a problem because I'm really using this part out of it. Alright, and then we'll hit OK, and it's recomputing it and recomputing the fillets and the thicken and all that with it as well. Okay, so my point is that you would probably need to go back in and try to rebuild all these curves with a less or smaller tolerance as far as how tight it's going to meet the mesh data there. And then it's still computing. Go back in and redo your loft tool. Okay, now I'm going to back up in time here real quick and make this loft form visible. And I'm going to show you one other tool that kind of visually helps us see things. Underneath the inspect, we have the curvature map analysis. So let me select that surface. So this visually tells me, what's going on with the curvature, just like we saw with the cone plot. Now we're visually looking at it relative to the surface. Okay, and when it changes colors and varies, has little stripes. Once again, those are all those little visual or undulations in the physical surface. Okay, now let's see. I had captured this earlier. Let's just look at a comparison real quick. Sorry, let me move this off to the side a little bit so we can actually see it and go back to the other one. So if you notice, this is before that rebuilding of that particular curve there. Okay, notice how there's a little more undulations through there, and now it's smoothed out a great deal. Okay, once again, kind of showing you that by rebuilding the fit curves, it's going to be a smoother surface that in theory should be able to work better when we do the thicken tool. Okay, but go in and you'll have to rebuild all of them, and unfortunately you have to redraw them. It doesn't allow you to go back in and change the value afterwards, so that's one disadvantage on that, but it hopefully won't be that much extra time, and it'll get this loft to work then, or get the loft to rebuild it, and then hopefully get the thicken tool to work.